Character good morning that Toby
And welcome
Maguire
to the
Maguire plays in this film is called Peter Parker, and he asks a poignant question: Who am I? In this video, we're going to find out that he is indeed the Spider-Man, our favourite wall crawler and web slinger. There are a good number of things that we can take away from this film. Let us begin, shall we? First thing that we need to consider is the exact manner in which this comic of Spider-Man came to be. In 1962, Stan Lee came up with the idea of this particular hero, and it was put out under an already known magazine called Amazing Fantasy. The person that this magazine belonged to was going over the figures for that particular issue and realized that it was actually a really popular and fast-selling magazine, and this led to him giving Stan Lee a separate base for Spider-Man. And over the times, the Spider-Man took on various different uh, kinds of magazines. There wasn't one particular devoted magazine. There were a whole spectrum of them, such as The Amazing Spider-Man and so on and so forth. So this is the kind of humble beginnings for this particular video. This this particular comic to which the film would eventually arise from side of things. The films in question are obviously going to be Spider-Man, the original, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3 between 2002 and 2007. Then you have The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 in 2012 and 2014. And finally, you have the four-part saga of Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home, and the forthcoming Brand New Day in possibly a couple of months' time in 2026. I think all of these films, individually and collectively, give us a good representation of the wall crawler and web slinger Spider-Man. But as I said, we are only going to be concentrating mainly in this video on the first one that came out in 2002, as I believe this was the door that opened everything up in a grand and great fashion for Spider-Man. So this film follows the same formula as the comic and the early um, ap- adaptations in terms of the cartoon, regarding the fact that it deals with the life of a man or a young kid called Peter Parker. We're told this about the origin of him becoming Spider-Man. On a school trip, Peter Parker visits Columbia University genetics laboratory with his best friend Harry Osborn and his love interest, Mary Jane Watson. Whilst he is having this induction to this company, this look around, he is bitten by a spider. that has been genetically engineered and falls ill upon returning home. Meanwhile, well, the next day, Peter awakes to developments in his structure, his system, his whatever you want to call it. He these developments are spider-like abilities. Over time, he finds out he can shoot web, crawl up walls, that he has super enhanced strength due to this, what could be classed as a tragedy when he's bitten. The What we see as the story progresses that he goes from one scenario to another in order to develop these enhancements in a more suitable fashion to when he eventually becomes this vigilante Spider-Man in the city that he lives in New York. There is a good quotation from one of the characters. This regards his Uncle Ben. With great power comes great responsibility. This statement is very much the means by which he determines and sets forth his new life as the Spider-Man. He lives by this motto and he dies by it. Well, technically, he never dies in any of the films, but you know what I mean. It is a motto by which he stakes his life to. This is, in a way, the the beginnings of his journey as a superhero vigilante. In the meantime, there is also this transferal of superhuman powers to Norman Osborn, who is the father of his best friend Harry Osborn. It's not the same situation, but rather a similar situation where he becomes the Green Goblin. That would be this film's a nemesis for Spider-Man. Throughout the film, we see time and time again the Green Goblin tries to take out Spider-Man, but it's unsuccessful. So this is basically the plot line of the film. Let us now come to another factor about this film. This time we're going to consider very briefly an outline of the cast to this film. Obviously, beginning with the titular character, Spider-Man. He, as I said in the beginning, is played by Tobey Maguire. We've, the next person is Norman Osborn, or the Green Goblin, that Spider-Man's arch nemesis to this film. He is played by William Dafoe. The love interest of Peter is Mary Jane Watson, as I've already mentioned in a prior point, but she is played by Kirsten Dunst in this film and the subsequent films of this particular trilogy, with Tobey Maguire as the titular character. Another person that is in this film, Harry Osborn, the best friend of Spider-Man, or Peter Parker at this point, should I say, is played by James Franco. Another person in this film is the titular character's uncle, called Ben Parker. He is played by Cliff Robertson, to whom we have that brilliant quote that kind of sets up everything, the philosophy of Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. The next person in the line is Peter's aunt, May Parker. The film, she is played by Rosemary Harris. Then you have one last character in this film, and that is J.K. Simmons. Sorry, no, J.J. Jameson, the Daily Bugle publisher, and the one guy that views Spider-Man as a menace to society. He's played by J.K. Simmons. All of these different people have been in various other films, various other series on TV. One of these people, J.K. Simmons, that I just mentioned, had a long stint on a well-regarded TV program called Law and Order. He played the psychologist. Now let's consider one last factor to this film, and that is both the budget and its success. So the budget of this film was £140 million, and that is a large amount just simply for a budget of a film, but it's understandable because of everything that went into the film, the design, the costumes, the well-known actors, all of these different elements. But what is more staggering is how successful this film was unto itself and as a part of a trilogy. So it raked in £826.8 million as a result. This just shows how great this film truly was as an an adaptation of a comic as well as a cartoon. So to conclude on this film, Spider-Man 1, the Tobey Maguire era, I would say this. This is a great film, a great adaptation of the original source material, both the comic and the cartoon. But I would also say this, that it surpasses many of the other adaptations of the time and the period after, simply because this stands at the cross juncture of being the one that catapulted all that could be done for such films to come after, but also built upon what had already been laid prior to this in terms of films like TMNT, that would be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Spawn, and Blade, which all are comic book adaptations. But this stands apart because of the very wonderful realities of the CGI elements that went into the film, as well as the live action in terms of what you see in the fight scenarios and everything else. So I would highly recommend it for that on that basis and everything else that I've put forth in this video. Thank you for listening.